24th, 2023 fire at RM Palmer Company. Behind me are Chief Wayne Holben, West Reading Police Department, Sergeant, he's not here, the Fire Chief, the West Reading Fire Department, Chad Moyer, Western Berks EMS, Anthony Tucci, the West Reading Fire Marshal, Troy Hatt, the West Reading Mayor, Samantha Kegg, West Reading Council President, Ryan Lineweaver, Dr. Barbera, the CEO and President of the Reading Hospital. I will tell you that the State Police is doing the cause and origin of the fire, and that is a large-scale investigation involving multiple agencies that are helping. The length of time is unknown, and we will release information as soon as we are able to. That's our statement regarding the fire, or the cause and origin of the fire. Now I would like to introduce the West Reading Borough Police Chief, Wayne Holben, who's going to read a statement regarding the fire at RM Palmer Company.
Thank you. Chief, can you spell your name?
Thank you. Yes, my name is Wayne, W-A-Y-N-E, Holben, H-O-L-B as in Bravo, E-N. Before we begin, I would like to take a moment to honor the memory of the victims of this tragic event with a moment of silence. Thank you. On Friday, March 24th, a devastating explosion shook the West Reading community. Since then, rescue workers have worked tirelessly to search for survivors and ensure the safety of the surrounding area. 7 individuals died, several were injured, and some community members were left homeless due to the explosion. The search and rescue efforts following the building explosion at the RM Palmer building have officially concluded. Now that all unaccounted for individuals have been recovered, the focus shifts on the daunting task of cleaning up the aftermath. The cleanup process has begun, which is expected to be difficult and a lengthy process. It will involve the removal of debris, clearing the area, and making sure that buildings are safe to occupy. The cause and origin of the explosion is still under investigation by the Pennsylvania State Police Troop L Fire Marshal. Now that we are closely working with emergency response teams, environmental experts, and construction professionals to ensure that the cleanup is done safely, efficiently, and with minimal impact on the surrounding community. We urge the public to be patient during this time, as the area will continue to be closed off until cleanup is complete. We also ask that you continue to keep the families affected by this tragedy in your thoughts and prayers, and hope that the first responders' diligent efforts these past few days have helped bring closure to all those affected by this tragedy. We are committed to keeping the community informed as we work towards rebuilding and restoring the area. We appreciate your cooperation, support during this difficult time. Thank you. I'll now have the mayor come up and give her statement.
Thank you. Hi, Samantha Kegg. As Chief Holben said, we were able to account for the bodies. This is still a devastating loss, as I said last night. It was and still is the wishes of West Reading Borough officials that the families have time and space to grieve and share the information with their loved ones on a personal level, and not to have them find out things via the news and or social media. However, the Berks County Coroner's Office is starting to release the names of the positively confirmed identified individuals, following their guidelines and protocols for appropriate release. Our thoughts are with those affected by this process and news. Judy Schwank, Jahani Sapita, Chrissy Houlihan, and Josh Shapiro, and many other elected officials have been staples in making sure resources are available to families, employees, and anyone affected by this tragedy. And we are working together with them very personally to make sure the resources are there and coming. As we move into the investigation phase and releasing this further into very capable hands, my focus will be on the families and those affected to get them the resources and information they need, along with community support. We as a borough will continue to work hard for our community throughout the next coming months. I'm going to hand this over to Council President Ryan Lineweaver to make his statement.
Yeah, it's Ryan Lineweaver. It's Lin
W-E-A, W-E-A, V as in Victor, E-R. So this afternoon we had the opportunity to speak with representatives from Representative Houlihan's office, from Senator Bob Casey's office, and take them down to the site and, more importantly, speak to the number of federal resources that are available to those affected. So they're ready and available to help anyone affected by this tragedy, including federal assistance, whether it be from the Small Business Association, from HUD, regarding food assistance, the Postal Service, survivor benefits. They are ready and standing by in case anyone is in need at the federal level. Also wanted to speak to the West Reading Recovery Fund that was set up in tandem by the United Way of Berks County and the Berks County Community Foundation. I had spoken with representatives from there, and as of about 1 o'clock today, there was roughly $107,000 already raised, which is incredible. We honestly can't thank people enough for their contributions and those who are willing to continue to contribute in any way. Right now, they're currently looking at how best to disperse those funds efficiently and effectively by their guidelines that they have set. Also within our community, was able to speak with a representative from the American Diner, which is right on Penn Avenue in West Reading. Yesterday, they brought in families, friends of those affected by those at Palmer, and 100% of their proceeds from yesterday were raised towards first responders. So they were able to raise $3,600 in funds that will be dispersed between multiple agencies, including the West Reading Police Department and West Reading Fire Department. We heard stories yesterday. We went on top of the hill to speak with a lot of Palmer employees who were up there, and they were there during the day, and they literally said that there were people stopping them in the street to hand them $100 and say, please make sure this goes where it needs to. And that goes to how incredible this community is. It really is. And hopefully, as we continue out of this and through this process, that will continue to shine through for everyone who's willing to look. So once again, thank you to all those who've contributed, who will continue to contribute to first responders, to those in need, and those affected. At this time, I will turn it over to
Troy, did you have a statement?
West Reading Fire Marshal Troy Hatt.
First name is Troy, T-R-O-Y. Last name is Hatt, H-A-T-T. 5 South 2nd Street, 77, no wait, let me start over. 5 South 2nd Avenue, 77 South 2nd Avenue, and 200 Penn Avenue have been condemned. They have been condemned due to safety reasons and the buildings being unsafe. What that means is they are not condemned to be demolished. What that means is they are unsafe to occupy. We need a lot more information from those buildings, meaning engineers need to come out. The businesses that are operating out of some of those buildings that were condemned are operating and will continue to operate out of other locations. So we're going to have to gather more information, but as of now, they're going to remain condemned due to unsafe reasons. Also, that block in front of there, which is from 2nd Avenue, will continue to be closed from Franklin Street to Penn Avenue, and Cherry Street will be closed from 2nd Avenue to the railroad bridge. Again, that is for safety reasons until we gather more information from the engineers for them buildings. But again, those businesses that are in that area continue to operate, just operating at other locations. Thank you.
At this point, we're going to bring up CEO and President of Reading Hospital, Dr. Barbera. He has been an amazing staple in this community and has been such a community partnership. Thank you so much for everything you've done and been doing.
Thank you. Charles Barbera, C-H-A-R-L-E-S-B-A-R-B-E-R-A. I am Dr. Charles Barbera, an emergency physician, and I am the President and Chief Executive Officer at Reading Hospital. Reading Hospital is 3 blocks away from the Palmer Candy Factory, and our team has been intimately involved with the responding to the incident of Friday evening. Immediately after the explosion, Reading Hospital activated our external emergency preparedness plan, in which we set up incident command under the leadership of our Chief Operating Officer, Michelle Trupp, and we prepared to accept patients. Reading Hospital was ultimately the site of all the patients injured in this event. 10 patients were treated at Reading Hospital in our emergency department and our trauma unit. 2 of those patients were admitted to the hospital. 1 of those patients was transferred to a burn unit, and the remainder were discharged to home with family. I am happy to announce that 1 of the patients that was admitted to the hospital was just discharged an hour ago in good condition to care of their family. Yesterday, at the request of Mayor Kaag, Reading Hospital hosted a meeting for the families of the victims and for those loved ones who were unaccounted for at that time. We provided an interpreter, pastoral support for the families as they heard from the authorities and asked questions. Our hospital family is devastated by these events, but we consider it our mission and our privilege to stand tall as a pillar of this community. In times of crisis and every day, our people take on this responsibility without wavering. Our entire team at Reading Hospital is fully dedicated to caring for those injured in the explosion and to working with the authorities to bring healing and closure to everyone impacted by this tragic event. Thank you.
Okay, we'll open it up now to any questions you may have.
Dr.
When you
Barbera?
talk about it being
Yes.
Among those who was the woman who was found later in the rubble and survived, was she among those who was released from the hospital, or is she still there?
I can't, without names, I can't really release any of the dispositions of the patients. I apologize.
When you talk about buildings being condemned, we've heard from a lot of employees that there are belongings in that one building, and forgive me, I'm not familiar when you say addresses what building that is. We've been told that the main factory there is building 1. Will
Correct.
those people be able to go in and get belongings at some point? I mean, many
They-
say that their phones are in there, they can't keep in touch with coworkers.
And we understand that, and today we were trying to get to that point to allow them in, but again, due to the unsafe, unstable status of that building, we cannot let anybody in there to get that stuff. I can tell you that there has been insurance representatives out there today. This is their first real look at what is there and what they're going to need. We are hoping within a day or so for the engineers to be out. When the engineers deem it safe, yes, they will be able to get their stuff out with assistance with responders and/or people to ensure their safety.
And UGI says that in its checks after the explosion, it found several small leaks in the area around the explosion area, not so much that area. Will there be a way to determine, now the gas is off and whatnot, if it was gas in that?
Well, that's going to be all part of what our fire marshal unit does to figure out what actually caused this to happen. So that's why we're still, it's a big scene, so it takes a while to figure stuff out sometimes. So yes, that would be all part of what we do to try to figure out what happened.
Let me expand on that. So with respect to the investigation to the cause and the origin, can you say whether or not this is isolated, or should the residents of West Reading be concerned that maybe their home could go up at any moment?
No, it's isolated to that location.
Can you walk us through a little bit about exactly what you're doing right now in the investigation? I know you don't have a timeline for how long this can take, but what are you guys in there doing? What are the next steps as we look through and try to piece this all together to figure out what happened?
I mean, I wouldn't tell you what our steps are to do that, but, you know, we talk to people. There could be other people to talk to. There could be a video within the building that, you know, if there's some type of closed circuit, or I don't know if I'm using the right word, like a video that we may want to look at and somehow capture that, and that doesn't always happen immediately. It may be required a search warrant. So we want to get everything that if there's video of what's going on in there just prior to this event, yeah, we want to have that. But that doesn't always happen within, a day or two. That could be a week till we send it out, even if that's where we're going. So that's just one thing that could prolong that. Or we want to talk to somebody. Maybe we want to talk to somebody that's injured. There's so many variables that go into it. We want to talk to somebody, you can't connect with them. It's a week, it's a month later. So until we have all the answers that our fire marshals want to gather, it's going to take however long it takes.
Tell us who exactly is on this team. I know OSHA's also has their own investigation. So who's specifically on this investigative team right now?
As far as cause and origin of the fire from the state police, there's 2 fire marshals that are doing this incident.
Trooper, how cooperative has RM been with this investigation? And to the point that was sort of just raised here, there's a lot of variables. What have they been able to tell the state police at this point about what they know was happening in the building before the explosion?
Well, I would never discuss what we turn up in the investigation at this point, especially. Have they been cooperative? I didn't ask them if they were cooperative or not. I'm assuming they are.
But I guess, let me rephrase it. Is there anything they've been able to tell you at this point about what was happening inside the building? I know the utilities have said what they've said. What has the company said?
That I don't know.
Trooper Bain, for anyone who may have video surveillance, pictures, anything of the incident, how can they go about contacting emergency personnel?
Well, I will give you my email. You can email it to me, and I'll send it to the investigators. We would love to have any video, pictures, just after the event, before the fire department gets there. I know there's a really good video out there. I don't know if I can say where it came from, but there's a really good video out there that I just got longer of the video today at the request of one of the investigators. So yeah, if there's anybody, if you have a picture or video, maybe from a different angle or whatever it may be, don't ever think it's no big deal. Get it to us, and then we'll decide if it's not a big deal.
Is there any reason to suspect negligence or foul play, or are we strictly thinking utility at this point?
I would tell you everything's on the table at this point, right? Because we're still not done with the investigation, right? We may go down that road and think, okay, we got it, and then something else comes up. So to say it's one way or another, I would not say that at this point right now.
The building with the most damage, what was that building? What was in that building? Can you give us a sense of how big it was, how wide it was? What, was it an office building? I don't know the proper terminology.
It was part of RM Palmer's manufacturing storage facility for their chocolate. There were some employees, some office buildings up top, but that's what it was primarily used for.
Was it a loading dock as well?
There was a loading dock associated with the rear of the property, yes.
Is there a manifest that told you guys how many people were working in the building at that given time for this massive explosion and for the number of people that were reported injured and deceased, it seems that it's kind of a miracle that more people weren't killed in this.
Yeah, the police, working in close conjunction with RM Palmer staff, were able to come up with a list of people who they were not able to account for.
That is correct.
How many were in the building, how many were in that portion of the building then?
I don't have an exact number of how many were in the building.
But just in that portion of the building, did people make it out alive, or was it a small crew and this is what happened to them?
I don't have that answer.
Okay.
Is there a number for the amount of people who were not in the building, or not working there, but lived near it and were displaced by the explosion? Who won't be able to go back to their apartment?
There are about 4 units.
About 4 units?
Yes.
Comprising about how many people, sir?
I don't have that exact number.
That's included in the 3 buildings condemned, or is it beyond that?
That's included.
So those 3 buildings, that includes the 3 units for people?
Correct.
In your list of the 7, do you have the number of Hispanic?
I do not have that number.
Or nationalities?
I don't have that number.
Back to the concern for residents, UGI says the leaks that it found in the surrounding area, no one called those in. No one smelled gas. There were no reports of it. There were no reports of gas odor at the explosion site. So if we're relying on people to smell it, or they dig up, is what they did today. They dug up holes and found these leaks on their own doing this safety inspection. Why shouldn't residents be concerned if they went and found these leaks that nobody knew were there because something exploded?
UGI was on location that evening, so I'm sure they did what they had to do to make sure this area was
They were
safe.
finding these leaks and repairing them today, 4 days later. That's what they told us.
So when UGI was on scene, we had to shut the gas off. So there were some gas leaks that were repaired after the fact. Obviously, having gas off for a little bit, turning it back on, you do kind of smell like different things. We can't really comment on anything further than that because obviously it is under investigation. We don't have those answers, and us as a borough, we're not able to really answer them. That's why we're putting it in the capable hands of the next agencies kind of coming in as we turn it over into that investigation portion.
I understand that, but if I'm a resident in that area or any area, I'm now concerned because there were these leaks that nobody knew about, and they only found them after 7 people died. That's why I'm saying, how do you assuage the fears of people?
The
there?
leaks that they may have found after may not have been the cause or involved with the incident. It might have been from turning the gas back on. But that's all speculation at this point. I mean, obviously, a lot of this is speculation. But what we're doing is it's obviously Officer Bohm has said that it is a contained incident. We've done our due diligence enough to be able to say that. So all that we ask is obviously continue to utilize the resources available. If you do smell a leak, come to us. But other than that, we have had obviously numerous agencies there and available to say that this is a contained incident and that everybody is safe.
Has there been any?
I would just add to the fact that to your question about how the vehicles were transported to the hospital, there were 7 patients of the 10 that were transported via 911, Mr. Tucci and his service. The other 3 walked. So they were able to ambulate and get to the hospital on their own.
Were there any leaks reported in the borough after the explosion or over the weekend or today? Have there been any odor complaints?
Yeah, Dean, you want to come up and if you know any odor complaints from that? This is Dean Murray, our borough manager.
Hello, everyone. Excuse me. Dean Murray, M-U-R-R-A-Y. I'm the borough manager for West Reading. With PA1 calls that come in for people that do think that they smell something and check it out, UGI comes out and checks on those right-of-ways. And then they do call the PA1 if they have to dig and locate. Usually it's mostly because core drilling, so they can assess it outside the property, and then they have special equipment that they can run into the ground and see if they can sense gas or not.
But have there been any leaks since that have been found? Since?
If I recall correctly, within the past couple of days, there may have been 2 or 3 PA1 calls, just so that way they can come out and core drill and check the ground. That's all I know other than that.
So you don't know the results of that?
I do not know the results of that. I just know by the PA1s coming in, they got to come out and core drill the ground. Thank you.
Is there anyone here that can tell us what it's like at the scene, digging? I mean, we see it from 2 blocks away. I mean, how big? What are you looking at? I mean, what does it look like firsthand? The destruction.
I'm not going to necessarily go into details about what things look like, but obviously the emotions are very high. We care very deeply for the victims. We're trying to do everything that we can to locate them and reunite them with their families. It's just overall, it's a lot of teamwork. Everybody working together to try to accomplish a goal.
Chad, in your experience, what UGI told me is that leaks that might have been smelled today or yesterday or uncovered were more than likely caused by the explosion itself, which me not being an expert seemed palpable enough. You've done a million of these, though. I'm guessing, I'm not asking you to comment on this. In your experience, is that a palpable thing that could happen?
I don't have enough experience with UGI services to be able to answer that question.
Okay.
Trooper, can you talk to the fact that obviously the #1 priority this weekend was making sure that all the victims were found?
Correct.
What does this do for the investigation side as far as all of the materials have been removed, does that make the job more difficult for the investigators?
It absolutely does, because when the fire marshal goes in to do their thing, they're trying to look at damaged parts of a building or whatever it may be. Well, the number one goal of this, once the fire was out, gas stopped, is to look for the victims, right? That was the number one goal that we tried to do here, to get the victims, hopefully to find more alive victims than we found. So with that, when they picked the building apart with the excavator, yes, it makes it really hard then to try to figure out things on how things may have happened here or there or anywhere else. So yes, it makes it really difficult to try to come up with calls. You got one of the best fire marshals in the state, though, that's on this job here for this. So
I mean, it's a pretty big explosion, so it's a pretty big, I mean, you've got material that's potentially all over that area, right?
correct.
Do we know if any like alerts or alarms went off before the explosion at the plant?
That I do not know.
I can tell you from Anthony Tucci, I'm the EMS chief for Western Berks Ambulance. I can tell you from the CAD notes that they did report that there were multiple alarms that the county received in their dispatch center.
You know what those
Fire
alarms
alarms,
indicated?
though, yeah.
A fire alarm.
There's no
Before the explosion?
There was no pre-alarm, just fire alarms that went off in the building that they were getting from their reporting stations.
After the explosion or before the explosion?
I would assume right during the explosion, they got them probably simultaneously.
To be crystal clear, not at all before, not 5 minutes before.
Nothing came
on
into
the pop.
the
Got it.
comm center before that.
So right
Anyone
around
else?
the time.
Yeah.
Has anyone spoken to the lone survivor and how they're doing after all of this?
Not at this time.
Nor did we.
Have you spoken to any of the people who were injured, and what have they told you about the situation in terms of your investigation?
I don't know all the intricacies on how far they're into their investigation.
Are you
But-
aware of any reports of gas odor or reports of gas leaks at this plant in the days and months prior to this?
Yeah, I think any other questions with regards to the, with gas can be forwarded to UGI. Thank you.
So is it accurate to say that the families of the victims have asked to not have their names released? Are any names being released formally?
I know 2 names were released yesterday.
Yes.
And we can't speak on behalf of what the coroner's office, their protocol and what they do.
As I said.
I couldn't tell them what they can or can't do. They're gonna do what they do on everyday incidents. So when they have an identification, I would say, since they named the other 2, or the first 2, they'll release the names.
As I said, the coroner's office is gonna release that. Us as West Reading Borough, we're not gonna share that information as we don't see it privy to do so. But I think at this point, we're gonna wrap this up and kind of close this out so we can get back to doing what we need to do behind the scenes.
I'm sorry, all the decedents, are they employees or are they
We
all
don't have that
employees?
information. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We really appreciate
Thank you.
all
Thank
you,
you.
all of you being here and getting the accurate information out. Thank you so much.